I had 2 weeks of literally like, I can't go on like this. I can't do this. There's no way this is going to work. That was compounded by my ENT, wonderful doctor, though he is, saying, yeah, you'll have to learn to live with it. There's not much I can do medically. I'm like, really? That's it? Just sent me into tinnitus distress. So as a teacher, I'm blessed with really good health insurance. Um, so when my tinnitus hit, I basically freaked out. I went to my ENT twice. I got a specialist with Michigan Ear Institute, and they all basically told me the same thing. Hey, there's nothing we can do about this. The only one that did was my dentist, who said, hey, maybe you have TMJ. You should get evaluated for that. I didn't have TMJ, but, you know, I tried. So the dentist, 1 out of 4 doctors was the only one that actually gave me any hope.
So, what are the things that you may have tried or considered that didn't work? Let's talk about those, and then we'll jump into the tools and the advice that you might have for someone else who was where you used to be, who's listening to this. So, first off, what are some things that you tried? Maybe just waiting and see, and that didn't work. What are some things that you tried that didn't really move the needle for your tinnitus?
The biggest thing was reading stuff online, was going on the internet and just reading all these different people's postings about how they've suffered with tinnitus for years, and that freaks you out because you're like, oh my gosh, this person says they've suffered for 40 years with tinnitus. Why are they suffering 40 years? And is that going to be me? So that was really what I tried that didn't work, other than going to, ear specialists and the ENTs, which they really can't do anything medically. But I got really lucky. I mean, I found one of your meditation recordings on YouTube when I typed in tinnitus, tinnitus cures, or I typed something in searching for tinnitus. I found your meditations. I think it was the 7-day challenge, or is that the 7-day challenge? Then when I saw Treble Health does the maskers, I'm like, you know what? This actually helps quite a bit. This meditation is actually getting my attention off tinnitus. I got to give these people a call. I did. And that really worked. I got lucky. I found you guys like within 2 weeks. And so it was 2 weeks of misery. But then literally, when I started talking to Treble Health, even on the initial consultation call, it was like, wow, I feel good. And when I started feeling better, my tinnitus was less bothersome. So
Hmm.
I may
Let's
be the
go.
abnormality in that.
Let's go into that. So the tools that you use included the sound therapy devices on your ears, which are also sometimes referred to as maskers. And then additionally, you were doing other things, right? Whether that was guided breathing through a meditation type course or other cognitive behavioral tools, changing our reactions to different thoughts. So what was a day in the life of James when he was cruising in this treatment program?
So I would say a day in the life was, and again, I think I'm a pretty abnormal case because I found you guys so early. And, when I saw Dr. Sarah, she said, let's get started right away. You got a better chance of catching this early. So a day in the life before the treatment program was get up and hear the ringing in my ears and think, oh no, this is going to be a horrible day. I can't live like this. I can't do this. And the more I thought about it, the worse it got. The more attention I paid to it, the worse it got. And by 12 o'clock, I was like, okay, I'm calling in sick for the afternoon. I just can't work this afternoon. Literally the day I got the maskers, like the day after I got the maskers, the day was get up. Oh, I hear this tinnitus, put in the maskers. First of all, I could hear, which was awesome because I have some hearing loss as well. So that was like, wow, this is really cool. And then secondly was like, okay, this is really nice. Do I hear my tinnitus? Yeah, I do. But you know what? It doesn't bother me as much. It was still bothersome, but not as much.
Hmm. And what did you practice from the guided breathing or the cognitive behavioral therapy tools on a daily basis or a consistent basis?
So a couple of the exercises that I definitely found incredibly helpful were the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. That was 5 things you can see, 4 things you can smell, and you can turn those around however you want. I'm sure I'm not getting it right because I probably don't practice it right, but I'm trying. The guided breathing, the
Tell us about
counted
that. What
breathing.
is that method? How would you explain the basics of it, just in terms of what it's supposed to be doing and what it does for you?
So as I understand it and as I practice it, I basically will sit down and I'll say, okay, 5 things that I can see in the room, and I'll describe those 5 things. Like right now, I'm looking at a door, and I describe the door. I'm looking at a box, an Amazon box. I describe the Amazon box, and I go through the 5 things I can see. The 4 things, that I can feel. Using your 5 senses, really, basically. The 4 things I can feel. I can feel the table. It's a smooth table. What's the texture of it like? Really mindfulness. 3 things that I can smell. Do I smell popcorn down the hallway? I'm in the school and they make popcorn all the time. So I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. Okay, I can smell the popcorn. 2 things, that I can hear. Obviously, for me, it was always, well, I can hear my tinnitus. But then as soon as I started describing my tinnitus, and that's one of the big things that Dr. Sarah taught me, once I started describing it, it just didn't seem to have as much power as I was giving it. And then one thing that you can, I think one thing you can taste, I would take out, a Jolly Rancher or a Lifesaver from my drawer, hey, I can taste this, think about it. Just being more present in the moment. So that was the exercise as I see it, as I practice it. And it did do a lot of good for me. And I still use it to this day, 4 or 5 times a day when I feel, I hear tinnitus. Okay, I'm going to practice this exercise.
It's a good one when we're feeling a bit stuck in an anxiety loop or stuck in our head. Tinnitus is well known to cause those kinds of negative thinking patterns, and being aware of it and saying, okay, I need to stop and I want to reset my system here. Practice this mindful awareness of the different senses. It is a good way to stop that negative feedback loop of tinnitus, worrying, fear, fight or flight response, louder tinnitus. That's so key. I'm glad that you learned that. What about guided breathing? You said that you experimented with meditation. Had you any experience with that before, and how did it turn out to help you?
I meditated before. I've been meditating for a while, and I never found meditation to be tremendously fulfilling for me until I came across your meditations. The music in the background was just absolutely soothing, having something to distract me from the day-to-day thoughts. So I meditated probably twice a day for probably 10, 15 minutes. That helped a lot to take the mind off of things, to keep me calmer, to keep me more grounded and anchored in the present moment rather than thinking about the future.
Someone listening might be wondering, did that change your tinnitus? Did it make it softer or make you less affected by it? What happened there?
I would say it made me less affected by it. I don't know if it made it softer or if it made it less noticeable, that's for sure. And that's really, I don't know if it's quieter or not. I think today would have been a moderate tinnitus day when I was going through the distress of the first 2 weeks. Like, I can hear it. If I stop and listen, I can hear it, but it doesn't slow me down. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, you're an example of someone who really took, or, what we call early intervention and being proactive about their health, which generally is a good thing. Did you ever have thoughts of maybe this will just get better on its own? Maybe I should wait. Because I think a lot of people are in that boat, and sometimes, the first few weeks we might say, okay, let's monitor it a little more closely. But at some point there has to be a threshold of this isn't just going away on its own. When am I going to take action on and try to do something on this? So what is your advice or experience there?
I would say first and foremost, from what I've seen from the experts I've heard, yourself included, Dr. Sarah, and several others, there's a great book that I read that actually helped a lot as well, called A Roaring Silence. I highly recommend it. And I remember getting that book shortly after the massacres. And basically he said, I was desperate. I did everything I could to make this better, and that's my recommendation, take action. Life favors those who take action. And so that was a conversation I had with my wife, actually. She said, well, why don't you wait and see what happens? Strangely enough, she actually got it too, almost the same time I did. Hers went away. So I was okay with that. I said, I will gladly take this for you. But anyway, I'm digressing. Point being, I would recommend everyone take action to the point where, don't wait, because I still have it, but it doesn't bother me. And I guarantee you that's because I took action and called Treble Health.
Naturally, one might think then tinnitus must be permanent at its current level, but that's not true. Is that what you've experienced? I'd like to hear your personal experience with that so far.
Yeah, my level, at least to the degree that I hear my tinnitus, my level of hearing tinnitus has dropped significantly. When it first started, it was probably as loud as the fire alarm in my building. It was just unbearable. Now it's as loud as a whisper, if that, and it comes and goes several times a day, but it's pretty much non-existent already. So I've definitely experienced, although my hearing loss is still there, my tinnitus really isn't.
If you follow Treble Health and get value from these videos, I would highly recommend that you watch the full video from this clip right here, or subscribe to this clip's channel. Every little bit counts, and your support means the world to me. This is Dr. Ben Thompson with Treble Health.